Hi, parents. Thanks for joining us. We're going to talk about the MAP Growth Family Report that you have seen come home the past couple of weeks with your child. As you know, our family partnerships is something that we value very much, and we wanted to just go over this report with you so that we could explain the different data points and how we're using them at Independence to make sure your students make as much growth as possible. So I'm going to share a sample growth report with you and walk you through the different pieces. Started. All right, should pop up. Yeah, excellent. All right, family. So this is should look very similar to what you received for your child for their family report. We're going to walk through it kind of slowly together. So at the end, we will encourage you to email me or your child's teacher if you have any more questions, but hopefully we can get a lot of these answered for you today. All right, the first thing I want to point out are everyone's top of the page is similar for every grade level, every student. We talk about what the report is, that it's a growth report, that there's two measures on here. There's the achievement measure and the growth measure. So the achievement is how well your child is learning new skills compared to students nationwide. So the MAP test is something given nationwide to districts that participate. It allows us to have a good comparison of where your child is and compared to their peers across the nation, and to help us track their growth, which is the most important piece. And again, so there's the growth. So the growth is a measure of your child's personal progress over the year. So remember, this is about personalized learning. This is about your child. It gives us a good comparison with other students, but we're just focused on your kiddo. And then the RIT, that's the big question that comes up a lot. What is a RIT score? It's actually a Roush units scale, and it's pretty cumbersome to explain, but essentially it helps us measure your students' growth over time. Right now, I just want you to understand that the RIT is the number that goes up over the years, and we'll talk about how we compare that number to your child's performance. All right, let's take a look. Okay, so our first chart is a math chart, and you'll notice that the math and reading charts are pretty identical in terms of how they are set up. I want to bring your attention first to this dashed line that goes across, and this is the national average achievement. So on average, this is where the 50th percentile of students performs with your child's grade level peers across the nation. So this would be the 50th% score. And then you'll see that along this timeline, this is how many assessments we have using the MAP assessment for this student. And we see that they made growth from fall to winter of last year, and then a little flat there to the spring, some actual good growth over the summer, and then their growth from fall to winter is what we're going to focus on today. So we're talking about the fall to winter 21-22 growth today. When we are looking at their growth, the student is compared to students all across the nation. So when we're looking at this particular student, we're looking at of 100 students across the nation, where does this student's achievement rank? So their achievement ranks at the 71st percentile. So that means that their achievement is higher than 71% of students across the nation in third grade. It's a pretty good score. On the growth, on the right side, we are looking, it says 41st percentile. This is a little different, where the 71st percentile measures of all students across the grade level. The growth measures from one assessment to the next. So in this case, we measured this fall of this year to winter of this year. And when we talk about the average growth, we're looking at the student compared to all the other students that scored at the 197 level. So let's take this. So we're looking at this right here. So of all the students across the nation that scored 197 on their RIT score for math at the beginning of the year, if we compared all those students and how much growth they made from beginning to middle of year, then we're looking at this student made growth the 41st percentile, or more than 41% of their peers. So again, we have the achievement, which is measuring compared to all students. And then we have the growth, which is comparing students to students within their same beginning of the year score and how much growth they made from fall to winter. If we look down at the reading achievement, we see all the similar scoring. So we have our 50th percentile line, which is national average achievement. And then we see the different assessment scores across time. And what we notice here is something I want to point out and be clear with everyone. If we're measuring growth, students are not always going to show growth from one assessment to the next, and that's okay. It's over a long period of time that we want to make sure that growth goes up. So you may have noticed that the students in their math achievement was only a 41st percentile growth. That's still really good. We're very proud of the student. When the higher your achievement score is, the harder it is to make that growth. When we look at their reading, you can see over the span of 3 assessments that they didn't grow a lot. And that's okay. Sometimes our students flatline and sometimes our students dip, and that's okay. The goal is over a long period of time, are they continuing to make growth? And as you can see, the student has actually made pretty outstanding growth as I started at a 162 and now to 196. When we look at this student's achievement in reading, we're at the 59th percentile. So they are achieving it higher than 59% of all third grade students across the nation. When we look at their growth compared to all the students at the fall that had 189 RIT score, this student made more growth than 57% of students. So again, we're not always going to see growth. Sometimes this number is high, sometimes it's low, and that's okay. We want to make sure that they just continue to grow over time. But this does give us a good indicator of some of the success that they have had this year and helps us look at the goals that we have for the students for next year. One other data point I want to point or show you on this is at the bottom of our 3rd and 4th grade, you're going to see this box. And it's talking about the STAR assessment. So the STAR is taken in math and reading in both 3rd and 4th grade for all students across the state of Texas. And there's 4 achievement levels. There is the does not meet, approaches, and anyone out there curious, this is why I taught math and not reading. Sorry about the spelling. Approaches, meets, and masters. There's 4 levels of achievement that we can see for a student on a STAR assessment. And this student in both assessments is predicted to score at the approaches. And what we've seen is this is pretty predictable. So based off their middle of the year scores and end of year scores, it's a pretty good correlation. About 90 to 95% of the students based on this predictive score is score what was on a STAR, what was predicted by their math score. So it's another key component when you're talking to your student about where they might be scoring on the STAR test. The most important piece of this entire process of looking at this data is that your child is setting goals with their teacher. And that they are setting action steps and communicating those action steps to their teacher and to you. And as we said at the beginning, we value the partnerships with you, and we want to make sure that you're a part of that conversation. Normally, we would have had an academic parent teacher team meeting with you in February. Unfortunately, due to some challenges, we were not able to bring you into the building, but we're excited to go ahead and have this video for you so that you could see where your child is progressing in both math and reading. You should have received in the last couple of weeks either an email, a paper letter, or most likely via Seesaw, a video of your child's progress and the goal that they set for themselves. When we look back at their achievement and we share this data with students, we're not looking at the RIT score and trying to get students to score a certain number. We want them focused on the skills and the action steps and the behaviors that will help them achieve in both math and reading. So when you look at their goals, it's going to be very driven by behaviors and skill-based. So we want them to go deeper with their learning, because we know that that will translate into higher scores. The score is just a good progress measure of how much they are growing in the depth of their knowledge as they go through the school year. My challenge to you families is to take time this week to go over those goals with your child, to look at the action steps, let your child verbalize to you what they plan on doing. We want them to own this learning opportunity. We want them to own their goals. And then if you have any questions, we encourage you to reach out to your child's teacher. But if you have any more questions about the family report, about the data, please reach out to your child's teacher, reach out to me. We're happy to help. And we look forward to celebrating even more growth at the end of the school year. Thanks, guys.